I would describe myself, first of all, as a cat lover. You can probably see in the background two of my current cats. I love all animals, but cats are my specialty, my special heart.
What I like about cats is that I enjoy the personalities. You can leave them for a day or two and not have to worry about them. As long as they have food and a litter box, they're fine. And I just enjoy that they do find that certain person and they are attached to that person. And Chewy was that cat for me.
I moved to the Netherlands and I had been wanting a cat for a really long time. I'm a highly sensitive person, so having a cat is kind of like quite nice, just not to bombard other people all the time. So you can just kind of like dissipate some of that with a cat. I'm not really that interested in hanging around people that much, to be honest.
Something draws me to wherever, or if I go to somewhere like this guy here, like my therapy cat, Jethro. He came to me. I went to a farm stand one day, and almost 9 years ago now. Jethro, you are 9. Oh my gosh.
The animals that we have as pets, of course, originally were wild animals, but over the millennia, they have either been domesticated, self-domesticated, or in other ways learned to live with humans, and at the same time humans have learned to live with them as well.
One of her cousins' friends had a British short hair litter, and she was looking for people to purchase them, and and that she joked that I should get him because I'm a British long hair and he's a British short hair. So I was just like, you know what, flip a coin, I'm here, why not? I go like that.
About 9 years ago now, because he was only 5 weeks old when I got him, I went to the farm stand and there was this box. I had to look at the box. I mean, I'm just one of those people, look at a box, look anywhere, because you never know what's in a box. And there was these 3 little orange kittens, and I'd always wanted an orange cat, and I looked at my husband, I'm like, gotta take one. I'm sorry, gotta take one.
I was introduced to Chewy. I lived in New York at the time, and there was a family that was giving away free kittens, and I always wanted a cat because I had my own place. So I went, and I was just drawn to Chewy the first day I met her.
He was just sitting on the couch, and he had these huge quizzical blue eyes. Like, he just has an intelligence that was kind of beyond what most cats seem to have, and that's kind of what I'm looking for in a cat. And that it didn't matter to me that I had to pay like nearly 500 euros for him.
I have a short-haired domestic gray tabby boy, and he's my sweetheart. I have a little black medium-haired girl. I adopted her sight unseen. She was found in a dumpster with the rest of the litter and adopted.
Growing up, my family had cats, dogs, rabbits, so my obsession with those animals just kind of started at a young age, and it just grew from there. And my favorite animals are cats. So
he'd jump off the chair, so I would go and sit on it, and then he'd just start massaging my stomach. And that's because I have stomach spasms, because I'm so caught up in my own headspace that I don't remember to eat regularly. So he knew that. How does a cat know that? How does a cat know to say, okay, this time we need to give you a stomach massage?
The reason I called Chewy is because when she was a kitten, she would chew on everything. So we kind of just called her Chewy. She liked one person. That was me. She was not a people person, and that was okay. She would follow me around the house. She would lay with me, sleep with me at night. She had some serious attitude, but that's okay. They say that's what calicos have or are known for, is their attitude. So, and I just had her since she was 8 weeks old, and she was my cat. She was my baby.
You know, with everything that's going on with different ideograms, and I've got one thing that really sticks in my craw, especially over here in the United States right now. They say that certain lives matter, and I'm like saying, no, all lives matter. I don't care who it is. I don't care what it is. All lives matter. And I catch a lot of flack for that. I really do. Oh, I've got to get a life. I'm racist. I'm a racist? I'm the furthest one from being a racist. So, especially when I can even call my fur children instead of pets. So that's just all there is to that one.
He was super brave. Like, the first moment I let him out, I just hear a meow. So he must have been like 12 or 13 weeks old. So he just ran up the tree, and I went back inside thinking, let's just see what happens just for a moment. And then like 2 minutes later, I hear meow, meow, meow. And I kind of like come outside and then look up, and his little face is like 3/4 of the way up the tree. And he's like, I'm a bit stuck right now.
One of them I adopted after seeing his picture online from the local shelter, and this was after I had just lost a favorite cat. And I'm not the type of person that says, "Oh, if you've lost an animal, go right out and get a brand new one." That I find does not allow the grieving process to take place, which it's going to be unique for every person. Every person experiences grief in a different way. And when you've lost a child, when you've lost an animal, when you've lost a grandparent, nobody tells you, for a human, go out and get another husband, a child, or a grandparent, whatever, because you understand that with people, you can't replace them. You always have the memories. But people don't always understand that one animal is not indistinguishable from all the others. Much like humans, they each have their own individual personalities, idiosyncrasies, and learning that as part of the relationship is important. It helps build the relationship. It helps create the bond, the animal-human bond that is so important.
I was feeling really, really low and just didn't want to get up, pretty much. And I just wanted to lay down for a little bit, and Bast wanted to be fed, and he was really meowing at me, and I was like, nope, I'm not going to feed you until you come and give me a hug or a cuddle, because normally he comes over.
She was very playful. She loved to run around, play with the cat toys and everything. And then as she got older, she calmed down quite a bit, and she was just wanted to be laying on the couch, laying on the bed. She wanted to be wherever I was at.
And we kind of had this like, okay, now it's 10 o'clock. Now let's go for a walk. Now it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Let's have some food. Now it's 5 o'clock. Let's have some food. And like, it was just like it got better. It got really nice. Well, it was really, really nice as well. Yeah. With an animal, there is that physical intimacy, but it's completely platonic and almost in a caring way. But it is this like intimacy of caring and this reciprocal physical return.
They really do have a calming effect. Any animal will, actually. That's been scientifically proven that the animal-human bond does create a reduction in anxiety. It regulates your heart rate, and companionship. People think that cats are solitary, but house cats, domesticated cats, were domesticated by being around people. And while they can have they're definitely not dogs. They do not have a dog personality. They do not normally associate in packs, but they adapt to a domestic situation. It becomes a family situation for them. And as a result, they become very attuned to your moods, your behaviors, your actions, your habits.
She knew when I was upset. She knew when I was happy. She knew when I was mad. She had gone through everything, like all my ups and downs. She was there for me. She was kind of like my comfort in a sense. I shared everything with her, like my joys, my sadness. She was there for me.
They then know basically what you're going to do at any time. Of course, they still have their normal feline behavior.
He's a sentient being with his own mindset, his own opinions, his own decisions, his own tastes. To let that being live in your space, you need to accept that it is a relationship.
Well, actually, they pick us out. I do that with a lot of them. There's others that, like this guy here, Aiden. He's my semi-feral. Yes, Jethro. Now you're right. You're gonna get down. This is Aiden. He's my semi-feral. I got him in a Tractor Supply.
Bast was named after the Egyptian goddess Bastet. But I really wanted a girl cat, but he was a boy, so I was doing some research to see the other names of Bast and the other iterations to see whether one fitted. And Bast came up, and I was like, that's you. Okay. And I'd already was playing with this idea of calling my cat Bastet. And then when I saw Bast, I was like, no, you're definitely a Bast. You're definitely a protector. Because he had that, like, I'm watching you, I'm watching everything, and I'm observing, and I'm, like, processing, and I understand, okay. But it's also very peaceful and calm.
She comforted me when I was down. She just sensed it. They have something that just sensed it, and she would just come and lay with me, lay on me, get me to pet her, do whatever she could to make me feel better. And I always say to people, petting cats makes you feel 100 times better. I definitely think she knew when I was mad, sad, or happy. So when I was angry, she would react. She would actually just like get on me to try to like calm me down or just to be around there. If she was there, everything that I was angry about like went away. Like all my sadness, all my angerness went away. And when she was getting older, I didn't think the day that I had to put her down, I didn't think that was the day. I just thought I was going to take her because I work at a animal 24-hour hospital. So I took her into work with me that night, and I did not think I was going to come home without her. She stopped eating. She wasn't using the litter box, and I could just tell she was more tired than normal. Her blood work was horrible. Her kidneys were failing. Her blood sugar was through the roof. The x-rays just showed like she had all this stool inside of her that she just wasn't getting rid of, and there was like a blockage, and there was like nothing that they could do. I brought her in, and when the vet told me that she was miserable and she was in a lot of pain, he said that I could take her home and like spend as much time with her, but I knew in my heart that just wasn't what I could do because she was suffering and I could tell. So I had to make the unfortunate call to I'm sorry to put her down. Felt lost. I felt my world was crashing down. I thought, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to live the rest of my life without her? Because she was always there for me. So it was very hard. I stayed in bed for a week, and I didn't go to work for a week because it was just too much. I didn't want anybody around me I didn't want to talk to anybody about it. It took a while for me to get over it. I moved past that with the help of my husband, the help of my family, with the help of friends and my coworkers, because they understood. They have a pet website to grieve losses that our work offers to people. So I joined that, and I talked about my loss, and that community was really helpful. So I definitely think like if anybody can find like a grieving like source or service, I would definitely recommend it because it does help.
I mean, it's difficult. It's always difficult when they go, especially when you come home and you find them had passed away. That's the more difficult for me when I come home and it's a surprise. Other times I'll know maybe a week ahead of time that they're on their way out, and I'll keep watching for them. And I know, I mean, just again, something tells me that they're on their way out. They're giving me the signs, and I'll know within hours when they're going, and I'll sit there and I'll just hold them to the end. Very rarely do I have to bring them up to be help them have to go across the bridge. And boy, it kills me when I have to do that. I mean, it really kills me. I hate to see them. But on the flip side of that, I hate to see them suffer. So I know when I can feel the suffering, I can feel the anxiety as they're going, and I'll help them across. It never gets easier. You deal with it. You learn to deal with it, especially being a rescue foster person. But you know, my saving grace is they knew love at the end. No matter what, they knew love at the end.
Because I still missed the cat that I had lost, that I have a special affinity for male tabby cats. For some reason, they just are they seem to have the personality that just clicks with me. And he said, "Oh, look, across the store," he says, "they're having an adoption event. Do you want to go look for a kitten?" And I said, "No, I'm not really ready for a kitten. And when I see the kitten that I want, then I saw Tucker. I saw him, and he was in a cage, and our eyes locked. I walked up to him. He looked at me. They opened the cage. He crawled into my arms, reached up and patted me on the face, looked into my eyes, and that was it. That was Tucker. And so I adopted him, brought him home. He was a brown tabby, and he, from the very, very moment that we met, I knew this was going to be a really exclusive relationship. And sure enough, he was we had the kind of relationship where wherever I was, that's where he would be. He had his own interests, and he would, nap and play. But he wanted to be with me. And when he was not quite 10 years old, he had some physical problems, and it turned out that it was diagnosed as being ankylosing spondylitis, and where there was like an arthritic degeneration in his spine. So it was difficult for him to jump to certain heights. He was a little more stiff in his walking, and he would sleep just a little bit more. And so we had him on medication, but steroids, of course, only go so far. They're not a cure-all. They're only a treatment. And I mean, he was a big cat. At his heaviest, he weighed 21 pounds. The vet, they called him El Tigre. And one day, one of the neighbors came over and said that she'd seen a bobcat jump into my yard. And it was Tucker. He is that big of a cat. And but as he got more infirm and more frail, I didn't want to think about that. I mean, he was not even just 10 years old. That's very young. Actually, that's the prime of his life. Normal house cats normally can typically live 15 to 20 years. And I was used to having cats living to be 15, 17 years old. Well, one weekend, he just went down. And I knew it was time to have him euthanized. And my promise to all my pets is when it is time to have them put to sleep, I'll be with them in the room, holding them when the veterinarian administers the euthanasia drugs. That's a promise I make to them.
She went peacefully, very peacefully. I held her the whole time. The vet was very nice. He explained everything, and we just held her, and they said spend as much time as you want with her, and whenever you're ready, you guys can go. And we spent a good deal of time with her. I cremated her privately, so I got her ashes back, and I had paw prints made in a clay. So I have her paw prints, I have her ashes. My sister for Christmas got me a blanket with her face on it. My husband did the same thing. I have a lot of things to remember her of. I do also have a tattoo with her name and paw prints with her ashes mixed into it, so she is always with me. Yeah, it's when that's the reaction I get when I tell people. But then when I explain it and I said, I'm like, I did my research and I never had any problems with the tattoo, they kind of like, they're like, okay. For the tattoo, I just researched it. I was like, I want something to where I could have her close with me and with me at all time. And so I did research, and a lot of people surprisingly have done that before. So I was like, okay, maybe this is something I need to look into. So I did, and I found a tattoo artist who was willing to do it, and she does that. She specializes in that kind of thing. So I went and saw her, and we did it, and I haven't had any issues with the tattoos. I have her ashes in my bedroom on a shelf that I made specifically for Chewy. So everything that I've gotten, I have on that shelf, and it's for Chewy. There are days where I'll look at that shelf and I'll get teary-eyed and I'll cry, or something will remind me of her and I'll like get upset. Just like a couple months ago, it was like 6 months that I lost that I had to put her down. So that was really hard. And I'm pretty sure when a year comes, it'll probably be tough, but I'm a lot better than I was before.
If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Whatever happens, happens. If you look over my shoulder, to this side of me, you're going to see everyone appear on shelves. Everyone that has, except for maybe 4 that we really didn't know cremation was an option way back when, back in 94, 95. But everyone here are all past fur kits. They range anywhere from the bottom here. These are the 2 kittens that didn't make it. But the rest of them either had died of natural causes, or, well, actually all of them died of natural causes. Some of them had to be helped. Some of them died in my arms at home. But I just feel that when they do pass, they passed loved. They knew love right to the end. Of course, up here, over my shoulder, over the television, I have my husband who, he died last year in December. And that's a whole nother story. And I knew when he was dying too. I knew the week of, and I knew the day of. What, Lukey? Yes, I know, Lucas. Oh, this is my brat. He bumps me all the time. But, you like me talking about Daddy? Yeah, you like Daddy too. But Daddy was, he loved cats too. He was more of a dog person when I first met him, but very much a cat person at the end. And when the only reason he's here with me, everybody, and this is for everybody, when he was passing a couple of months before, I asked him, I said, well, I know you want to be cremated. Where do you want to go? And he said he didn't really want to tell me where he wanted to go. I kind of think I pulled that out of him. So, if you don't tell me where you want to go, either with your mom and dad or out in the ocean or whatever, I said, I'm going to put you up on the shelf with the babies. And he said, that's what I want to do. So that's why, people might think it's macabre, people might think it's strange, but he likes it there. I don't have any reservations about having him in my bedroom or with the kids. It's kind of a comforting, everybody's here with me sort of thing. And only in the last 2 days, actually, things are progressing that fast with one front. I am going to have at my use when the time comes, I will probably be cremated with everybody, and I'm going to have special instructions to have everyone put in this plot next to my brother.
In my previous experience, I was also a veterinary technician, so I have assisted at euthanasias and done euthanasias myself. So I know that it's done humanely. I know how to do it. I know the process, and so it's not it's not frightening. It's not a frightening experience for me. My husband can't do it. He cannot be in the same room with him. But as a professional, that's part of my job as a pet owner and as a feline behaviorist. It's part of my responsibility. So I held him while they euthanized him, and I made the decision that of all the other animals that I've had, he's the only one that I knew that I wanted to have him cremated, and others, when they've died naturally, I've buried them on the property. Those that have been euthanized, I've left with the veterinarian. Ones that have been hit by a car and never found, of course, you grieve, but you don't ever know, so you keep the fiction in your head that maybe they were adopted by someone else. The reality, of course, is that almost never happens. So I was prepared. I thought I was really prepared to deal with the loss of this cat, of Tucker. And I had him cremated. They made paw prints of his paws, and good veterinarians, of course, will always be in contact with you later. They usually send a sympathy card, and that happened. My vet knew how much I loved this cat. But as the time went by, I was more and more depressed. I had never experienced this level of grief in my life. And even though it's my job to deal with this type of grief, I found a grief support group and participated in that. And quite frankly, I did as much counseling as the counselor did, because we were with other people who had lost their animals, and I knew how to relate to them, but I didn't know how to apply it to myself. I understood, but I'd never experienced this level of grief before. So I actually eventually saw a psychiatrist because the grief was so intense. And I'm not really entirely certain that this psychiatrist understood the loss of a pet as completely as someone who professionally works with animals did. But he was kind enough, he was compassionate, he understood the grief process, and he worked with me on that. Still, as the days and the weeks went by, I was still waking up in the middle of the night, sobbing for losing my cat.
I went for a walk with him that night to where we normally go for a walk. I put him in the car, and then, I was like, okay, let's go back now. And he just was like, no, I just want to walk. I then wake up in the morning, and then he's not there. And then I get a phone call from the Deering ambulance saying that they found him, or that he was dead and that they had him. I didn't really feel anything, but normally I have this feeling of he's close by and concerned, but this time I didn't have anything. I think it's because of the soul and the body were disconnected and there was no resonance. That was why I couldn't feel anything. He was hit by a car, and it is said that in car accidents, because it happens so suddenly and so abruptly, the soul is still moving and the body's gone, especially with a sudden death. And so he was probably playing and catching mice and bounding after something. Body gone and on the side of the road, but his soul is still do, 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 do. And when I went to pick him up, yes, I couldn't feel anything because he was dead, but from the mice he'd killed and that I would hold, I'd feel this kind of really just high vibration kind of thing to it. And I'd feel it in my hand, and I'd feel it in both hands for a while afterwards as well. And then when I touched Bast and I really was looking for this feeling, there was nothing. Like, just nothing. And then I put him on my, and then we drove back, and I already knew that I needed to go and collect his soul. And I was figuring out the way in which to collect it and what I needed to do. And it was just the simplest of things, of just taking the body back there and calling him and asking him to reconnect and say, this is the vessel that I take you home in. Like, you're now connected.
Grieving processes are uniquely one's individual way of dealing with things. Me personally, I know what's going on. It probably happened, if it was sudden, yes, the sudden ones really hurt, but you have to just take in context. So they say they were already hurting somehow and you didn't know it, because cats are famous for not letting you know until the very end that something is drastically going on. Sometimes I don't know the reason, but whatever it was, they were brought to me, or they came to me, or they lived their whole life with me. They came into the house not knowing they were going to be loved. They were loved right to the very end.
With this particular pet, I was not ready to break that bond. I was not ready for that relationship to be over. And even I didn't understand that until, as the grief process continued, my grief was not abating. In fact, it was only accelerating and intensifying. And one of the things that I really feel made a difference was to have. I was so happy to have his ashes. I found an urn specifically designed for pet ashes, and it was one my husband and I felt very drawn to. It was a man and a woman, a couple holding a cat in their arms, and that mirrored our relationship with Tucker. And it just, when I found it, when I saw it, it spoke to me. It really did. And it really did help the grieving process for me, because I felt like emotionally that this represented our love for this cat and his love for us. It was a physical representation of that relationship, and it was a comforting thing for me to see. It was a tangible thing for me to reach out and touch, and so whenever I would pass by it in our house, I could look over at it and say, "Hi, Tucker." And I know intellectually, I know scientifically that there's only a physical part of him there, but that was important to me for him.
I've been asked to go south with my kids. I've been asked to go out west with my other cousins. I think I'm going to stay my tail right here in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and when my time comes, I'm going to go with my brother, with all the fur kids. We're going to take that plot.
Yeah, I definitely think he was a very claustrophobic cat, and I think that also leads me to want to taxidermy him. I've always been curious about Egyptian processes, ancient Egyptian belief systems, and it just seems a lot more easy for me to do. And so for that, the taxidermy is a way to preserve his skin and his hide. However, during the process, you can separate out the different body parts. It's good, but I think it's more fitting of him being an named after an Egyptian god, and being the prince that he is, that he should have parts of the ceremonies be respected like that. Those are his organs. He's still got bones and we've still got tissue to go through, okay? And this kind of like comes back to this Native American concept of just use everything, respect the entire animal, don't let anything go to waste.
Yeah.
So I'm going to clean the bones, and I've still got some fur from when he had his heart scans. So the bones and the shaving the shaved fur that I've got, I'm going to spin yarn and combine it with some of my hair to make something out of that. That's probably going to be jewelry. I don't know yet. I don't know how much yarn I have. I don't know what the bones are going to look like. So the bones, the hair, the organs. So also the organs are sacred. They're these energy centers. So they need to be discharged of their pent up energy. He's been in a freezer for 6 months and he was hit by a car, and I don't know how long he was out there for. So I'm not going to eat him, because also there's just, it just gets to some level of weirdness I need to draw a line at, Like, I always used to joke that I would wear my animals because I know they've had a happy life. But eating them, just no.
No one really knew how to talk to me about this. They knew that Tucker and I had a special, very special relationship. The one person that I really think, in fact, I know, who truly understood was my sister-in-law. She's also a big cat lover. And she, like me, she has a special affinity for male cats. And she had lost her Siamese earlier, several months earlier. And so she would check in on me to see how I was doing. And my best friend, who is unfortunately allergic to cats, she made a special attempt to spend time with me. We'd go to the movies together, we'd go out to lunch, that sort of a thing. So I think people were afraid to leave me alone because they knew that my grief was so intense that they were worried about me. And I was very lucky. I was very lucky in that regard, in that the people in my life who love me, one of the things they love about me is my love for animals. And that's one of the things I love about them at all. I've never been able to establish a relationship with someone who doesn't like animals or actively dislikes animals. I'm not sure that it's true that pets are good judges of character. I've seen evidence to support that, and I've seen evidence to the contrary as well. But I do know that I'm not comfortable with people who are not comfortable with